They say grief comes in waves. What they don't tell you is that sometimes those waves come with sharks. I was 34 when Michael died. One minute we were planning our 5th anniversary celebration, and the next I was identifying his body after a devastating construction site accident. The crane operator had been drinking. Something about a failed safety inspection that should have shut down the site weeks ago. The details blurred together in those first few days, a haze of paperwork and funeral arrangements that felt like walking through thick fog. The Prescotts, my in-laws, took over the funeral planning almost immediately. "You're in no state to handle this, dear," Margaret, my mother-in-law, had said with that particular smile that never quite reached her eyes. I'd been too numb to argue, watching as they transformed what should have been a quiet memorial into an elaborate spectacle. Michael would have hated it. He was our only son. Robert, my father-in-law, reminded me whenever I tried to voice an opinion. "We know what's best." The same words they'd used throughout our marriage, wielded like a weapon to remind me that I was an outsider. The girl from the wrong side of the tracks who'd somehow snagged their precious boy. The first hint of trouble came 3 days after the funeral. I was sitting at our kitchen table, my kitchen table now, I supposed, trying to make sense of the insurance paperwork when the doorbell rang. Margaret and Robert stood on the porch, dressed in what I come to think of as their business attire. Margaret in her perfectly pressed St. John's suit, Robert in his bespoke navy blazer with the gold buttons he was so proud of. "Rebecca, dear," Margaret's voice dripped with false sweetness as they settled into our living room. "We need to discuss the house." I poured coffee with trembling hands, already dreading whatever was coming. The Prescotts had never approved of me, never thought I was good enough for their son. The fact that I'd worked my way through college, that I'd built a successful career as an architectural designer, none of that mattered. To them, I would always be the scholarship girl who'd trapped their son into marriage. "What about the house?" I asked, taking a seat across from them. The leather armchair felt too big suddenly, or maybe I felt too small. Robert cleared his throat, straightening his tie. "Well, you see, Michael had discussed transferring ownership of the property to us before the accident." The coffee cup nearly slipped from my grasp. "What?" "He wanted to ensure everything was properly managed," Margaret added, her perfect posture somehow becoming even more rigid. "Given your background, he was concerned about your ability to maintain a property of this caliber. The house, our dream house, the one Michael and I had spent 3 years renovating together, my designs and his construction expertise combining to transform a neglected Victorian into something magical. Every inch held memories, the window seat where we planned our future, the kitchen where he taught me his grandmother's recipes, the garden we planted together that first spring." "That's impossible," I said, my voice stronger than I felt. "We own this house together. Both our names are on the deed." Margaret's smile tightened. "Actually, dear, Michael had a separate will drawn up. He never filed it officially. You know how these things can slip one's mind. But we have it here." Robert produced a document from his briefcase, sliding it across the coffee table with the same smug satisfaction I'd seen him display at countless country club gatherings. The paper looked official enough, legal language and signatures in all the right places. According to this document, Michael had intended to transfer full ownership of our home to his parents. "This isn't real," I whispered, scanning the paragraphs that threatened to tear my world apart all over again. "Michael would have told me." "Oh, sweetheart." Margaret's tone made me flinch. "There were so many things Michael didn't tell you. Did you really think you knew everything about him?" My hands clenched around the document. "What's that supposed to mean?" "Well," she glanced at Robert, who nodded slightly. "Michael had been reconsidering things. The marriage, the house, everything. He came to us about 6 months ago, talking about making changes." "You're lying." The words came out barely above a whisper. "We understand this is difficult," Robert interjected, his businessman's voice in full effect. "But surely you can see that this house rightfully belongs in the family, with people who can properly maintain it." "I am family," I protested, but the words sounded weak even to my own ears. Margaret's laugh was soft and cruel. "Oh, Rebecca. You were his second choice, dear. Surely you knew that." After Claire left him at the altar, he was devastated. "You were?" Convenient. Someone to help him get over her. Claire. The name hit like a physical blow. Michael's college sweetheart, the one who'd supposedly broken his heart. He told me about her once, early in our relationship, but said it was ancient history. Now Margaret wielded her name like a knife, precisely aimed to cause maximum damage. "Get out," I managed, standing so abruptly my coffee cup toppled. Dark liquid spread across the antique table runner Margaret had given us as a wedding present. "Get out of my house." "Your house?" Margaret's eyebrows rose. "I think you'll find that's up for debate. Our lawyers will be in touch." She stood smoothing her skirt with master's name. "Do try not to damage anything else before we settle this. Some of these pieces have been in the family for generations." I watched them read through a haze of tears, that same document still clutched in my trembling hand. As soon as the car pulled away, I collapsed onto the sofa, giving in to the sobs I'd been holding back. The house seemed to close in around me, every cherished detail suddenly feeling like a potential lie. Had Michael really been planning to leave? Had our entire marriage been built on a foundation as shaky as the one we'd replaced in this very house? The next morning, I called in sick to work and started searching. If Michael had been planning something, there had to be evidence somewhere. I went through his office methodically, checking every drawer, every file folder. His laptop yielded nothing suspicious, just work documents, family photos, and the endless renovation plans we'd drawn up together. I was about to give up when I noticed something odd about the antique desk we'd rescued from an estate sale. Michael had spent weeks restoring it, carefully matching the original wood and rebuilding the hidden compartments that had once made it special. Hidden compartments. My heart racing, I ran my fingers along the underside of the desk, feeling for the catch mechanism we'd repaired together. There, a small click, and a panel swung open. Inside was a slim leather portfolio and a small brass key I'd never seen before. The portfolio contained documents all right, but not the ones Margaret and Robert had shown me. These were dated just 2 months ago, written in Michael's familiar handwriting. As I read, tears began falling onto the pages, but for an entirely different reason. My phone buzzed. Another message from Margaret, no doubt further proof of their claims. I ignored it, my hands shaking as I held the key up to the light. I knew exactly what it opened, and my in-laws had no idea it existed. Sometimes the truth hides in the strangest places, and sometimes, just sometimes, those waves of grief bring something unexpected to shore. The safe was hidden behind a false panel in our master bedroom closet. Michael and I had installed it during the renovation, a project that wasn't in any of the official plans. "Every house needs its secrets," he'd said with that boyish grin I fell in love with as we carefully plastered over the evidence. Only now did I understand the weight behind those words. My hands trembled as I inserted the key, remembering how he'd insisted on this specific model. A vintage Drummond with dual security features. It needed both a key and a combination. The combination. I closed my eyes, thinking back to the documents I found in the desk. Michael had always loved puzzles, hiding clues in plain sight. The last page of his letter had a series of numbers that seemed random at first glance. But now, 8-23-12-7. Our wedding date. The safe door swung open with a soft click that seemed to echo through the empty house. Inside, I found another portfolio, thicker than the one from the desk, and a sealed envelope with my name written in Michael's distinctive scrawl. But what caught my eye first was a small USB drive, labeled simply Insurance. I grabbed my laptop, hands shaking as I plugged in the drive. Dozens of files appeared, meticulously organized in dated folders. The earliest was from 6 months ago, exactly when Margaret claimed Michael had started having doubts about our marriage. The first video started playing, and Michael's face filled my screen. He looked tired, worried, but determined. "Hey, Bex," his voice washed over me like a physical touch. "If you're watching this, something's happened to me, and my parents are probably trying to take everything from you. They've been, God, I don't even know where to start." He ran a hand through his hair, a nervous habit I'd always found endearing. "They came to me 6 months ago with a scheme. Said they'd lost almost everything in some bad investments. Wanted me to sign over the house to them so they could take out an equity loan. When I refused, he laughed bitterly. Well, that's when the threats started. Video after video documented everything. Phone calls where they threatened to ruin his construction business. Meetings where they tried to manipulate him with guilt and family obligation. Even attempts to forge his signature on documents, all recorded, all saved. I'm so sorry, Bex. The final video ended with Michael looking directly into the camera. I should have told you everything right away, but I know how they operate. I needed proof. Real proof, not just my word against theirs. Everything you need is in the safe. I love you. God, I love you so much. Don't let them take what we built together. Tears streamed down my face as the screen went dark, but they weren't tears of grief this time. Opening a portfolio from the safe, I found exactly what Michael had promised. Bank statements showing suspicious transfers from his parents' accounts. Emails threatening to expose fabricated evidence of construction fraud if he didn't cooperate. And most damning of all, drafts of the very document they'd shown me yesterday, complete with practice copies of Michael's forged signature. The sealed envelope contained one final letter, dated just weeks before the accident. My dearest Rebecca, if you're reading this, something's happened to me and my parents are trying to take everything we built together. I know them. They spent years undermining you, trying to convince me I made a mistake. They never understood that you were the best thing that ever happened to me. Don't let them win, Bex. Don't let them twist our story into something ugly. You were never second best. You were the only one I ever truly loved. Claire was their choice, not mine. Another attempt to control my life that backfired when she realized what they were really like. I've copied everything to my lawyer, James Chen. He has instructions to help you if anything happens to me. The videos, the documents, everything they need to be stopped once and for all. All my love, forever, Michael. The doorbell rang, startling me out of my daze. Through the window, I saw Margaret and Robert's luxury SUV in the driveway again. This time, a man in an expensive suit stood with them. Their lawyer, no doubt, coming to pressure me into submission. Taking a deep breath, I gathered the USB drive and key documents, placing them carefully in my bag. Then I opened the door. Rebecca, Margaret's voice dripped false concern. This is Mr. Harrison, our attorney. We've brought the paperwork to begin transferring the house. It would be best for everyone if we handled this quietly. I smiled, and something in my expression made Margaret take a small step back. Actually, I said, I think we should handle this very publicly. My lawyer will be here in 20 minutes. James Chen, you might know him? Michael certainly trusted him. The color drained from Robert's face at the mention of James's name. Now, Rebecca, there's no need to involve outside parties in a family matter. Oh, but there is. I stepped aside, gesturing to the living room. Please come in. While we wait, I have some interesting videos I'd like you to watch. The next hour was almost worth everything they put me through. I watched their faces as Michael's videos played, saw their carefully constructed facades crumble as their schemes were exposed one by one. Mr. Harrison excused himself before James Egan arrived, practically running to his car. This is all lies. Margaret tried one last time, but her voice shook. Michael would never. Michael did. I cut her off, my voice steady. He knew exactly who you were, what you were capable of. He protected me the only way he could, with the truth. James arrived with his own stack of documents, copies of everything Michael had given him, plus the police reports he'd already filed regarding the attempted fraud. Mrs. Prescott, Mr. Prescott, he said calmly, you have two choices. You can leave now, sign these papers acknowledging Rebecca's full ownership of the house and agreeing to never contest it, or we can take this to court. With this evidence, I assure you, you'll be facing more than just civil penalties. They signed. Of course they signed. People like Margaret and Robert Prescott care about appearances above all else. The threat of public exposure of their social circle learning what they tried to do was more effective than any legal consequence. You'll regret this, Margaret hissed as they headed for the door. You're not family. You'll never be family. No, I agreed. Thinking of Michael's videos, his letters, the love and trust evident in every precaution he'd taken to protect me. I'm not your family. I was Michael's, and that's all that matters. After they left, I walked through our house. My house. Touching the walls we'd painted together, the fixtures we'd carefully chosen, the thousand little details that made it ours. Grief still lived here, probably always would. But now it shared space with something else. Vindication, justice, and the unshakable knowledge that Michael had loved me completely. I found myself in his office, running my fingers along the restored desk that had started this whole revelation. The craftsmanship was pure Michael. meticulous, thoughtful, with hidden depths that only revealed themselves when you knew where to look. Like the man himself. Opening the hidden compartment one last time, I noticed something I'd missed before. Carved into the wood, so small you'd never see it if you weren't looking, were the words for Bex, my first and only choice. Grief comes in waves, yes, but sometimes those waves wash away the lies, leaving only truth behind. And sometimes, just sometimes, that truth is exactly what you need to find your way home again. 3 months later, I finished the last renovation project Michael and I had planned together. A stained glass window for the front door, designed to catch the morning light. The pattern was one we'd sketched out together, intertwining trees, their branches reaching toward each other, roots deep and strong. Looking at it now, I think about choices. How we choose love, choose trust, choose to believe in something bigger than ourselves. Michael chose me, chose to protect me even after he was gone. And I choose to honor that love by living fully, by keeping our dreams alive in every corner of this house we built together. The Prescotts still live across town, but they might as well be on another planet. I hear through mutual acquaintances that they've lost standing in their precious social circle. Apparently, even their carefully sanitized version of events raised too many questions. Claire, of all people, reached out to me last week. She wanted me to know that everything Margaret had said was a lie. They tried to buy me, she wrote. Michael was the one who told me to run. I wrote back a simple thank you, but didn't engage further. The past is the past. My future is here, in this house filled with love and light and truth. Sometimes I swear I can feel Michael's presence, especially in the early morning when the sun streams through our stained glass window, painting the entryway in shades of amber and blue. Every house needs its secrets, he'd said. But what I've learned is that the best secrets aren't the ones that hide the truth. They're the ones that protect it, preserve it, keep it safe until it's ready to shine. I'm ready now, ready to live, to thrive, to honor the love that built these walls, ready to be exactly who I am. Rebecca Wilson, Michael's wife, first and only choice, keeper of our home and our truth. The waves still come, but I'm not afraid of them anymore. I've built my house on solid ground, with foundations deeper than any lie, and that's a truth worth protecting.